All right, so welcome to the rising 6th and 7th grade parents. This one is specifically for rising 6th graders. So everyone here should have a student who's a 5th grader. If you have a student who's a 6th grader and you click this link on accident, that's totally okay. This will still cover everything that's going to be covered in the meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. So a little bit about myself. I am Tyler Erb. I teach Math 2 and Math 3 at the school. I've taught here for 7 years. We also have with us Mr. Slattery, our principal, and Miss Weiss. Ms. Slattery, if you'd like to say a few words.
I do. I know this is a math meeting, but I'm going to put in a shameless plug for our rising 6th grade families. I'm actually, for those families that attend Elon Park, I'm going to be doing a kind of informal meet and greet via Zoom. The 5th grade steering committee has put that together on February 24th from 5 to 6 p.m. That's next week. That's for the Elon Park parents. And I will be reaching out to Valentine and also to Hawkridge too, and see if I can get up with the administrators over there and the 5th grade steering committee and do some informal meet and greets as well. We'll do a formal open house come towards the end of March, but definitely just wanted to put a name with the face for you guys, because I know for some of us, it's our first experience with middle school and there's a lot of mixed feelings about that. So look forward to meeting you guys actually in person at some point. Thanks, Mr. Erb.
Yeah, of course. And Miss Weiss is also joining us. She is our math facilitator. She is the person who's going to be teaching the 5th grade math club this year, as time constraints, and I have a 9-month-old daughter, and so trying to be with her. So I'm trying to delegate and give away some of the responsibility to others in our school. So she is going to be helping us out with that. Ms. Weiss, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Weiss. I'm the math facilitator for Community House, and I'm excited to work with the rising 5th graders. We're going to learn some math. So everybody will be learning math. That'll be fun. And this will be a really neat, fun experience for them.
And the curriculum and everything that we're using is the same that we've used for these last couple of years, and it's the same that six going into 7th graders will also use. Let's talk about the club. The club in general is open to rising 6th and 7th graders, which means your 5th grade students, and also we're doing a separate club for our 6th grade students going into 7th. We're hoping that this is going to help prepare them for a higher level of math course. Some of you may have had previous children who have come through Community House and have been able to do either this test before, or you've had friends who've done it. The big part about this club is the fact that it's free. It happens weekly, and every lesson is not only going to be live taught, but also is recorded and you can see posted on YouTube. Just by joining the club, that is not going to guarantee your child goes into Math 1, right? We still need to see that they're ready. We still need to make sure that they understand the material well enough to skip all these levels of math. Students will take a placement test at the end to determine if they will take Math 1. So be aware of that as well. So our goal is to expose your students to a rigorous math curriculum. This is a math curriculum that is going to prepare them to not only skip 6th grade math, 7th grade math, and 8th grade math, and prepare them to go into Math 1 as 9th graders, or sorry, as 6th graders. Math 1 is usually a 9th grade course, or it's our honors version of our 8th grade course. So kind of keep that in mind. This provides accelerated math courses to students that align with their needs. You also would have the potential for high school credit in all 3 grade levels. So you would get high school credit, but it does not count on their GPA. Why the club? This is capability versus what they're being taught. So I had taught Math 2 for a couple of years, and I found that we always had a small handful of 7th graders that were in Math 2. And I essentially realized that, I started to ask these children, why are you able to take Math 2 as a 7th grader? Like, why did you know or why were you able to test into this? And what they told me mostly was that their parents had worked with them, starting in 4th and 5th grade, and taught them what they would need to kind of be able to skip through. Apparently, give me 1 second, guys. All right, so going back again, this is what students are capable of versus what they're being taught. I found too many that the students that were able to kind of get into Math 2 as, or Math 1 even as 6th graders was just their parents helping them out, giving them that extra math. And I found that a lot of parents didn't necessarily know what they could teach their students at home to kind of help accelerate them. So we wanted to give an equal opportunity for anyone, any rising 5th grader coming into Community House to be able to take Math 1 as a 6th grader. This also helps prepare students interested in math competitions. I am essentially, I'm big into math competitions. I'm a coach for the math team. And so I do a lot of competitions with our school, and this kind of helps with that program as well. So for Math 1, if we have over 25 students, they're going to be taught by a 6th grade math teacher in 6th grade. We have had that for the last 3 years. We've had that kind of benchmark and not had to worry about it. The grade goes on the transcript, but it is not part of the GPA. So your student will get a final letter grade for the course, but will not get it won't count towards their high school GPA as they move forward. The biggest thing to highlight here, though, is once they're on the Math 1 path, there's not really a getting off point. If we push our kids too hard and they're not ready, it essentially creates this big issue where they start to struggle in Math 2 and Math 3, and now we'd have an 8th grader who's in Math 3 and isn't feeling fully comfortable. So that's a huge issue. So we need to make sure that we're giving our students the appropriate math level, regardless of whether that may be Math 1 in 6th grade or maybe not. Maybe they can take it in 7th grade or maybe even 8th grade. That's okay. Our test dates for this are going to be Saturdays, May 1st and May 8th. We try to get these in before the EOGs so we can have placement and ready to go from there. Here are a bunch of different math contests we do. Again, Math 1 in 6th grade and math contests kind of go hand in hand. But let's talk logistics. There's going to be roughly 9 to 10 weeks of meetings. For 5th graders, it's going to be from 3:45 to 4:30 on Wednesdays via Zoom. This is going to be run by Miss Weiss. Once students are dismissed, so probably that last 15 minutes or so, I'll also hop in and try to answer some questions and help out with the students. Every lesson is not only going to be live taught, but it's also going to be put on YouTube. There's a bunch of handouts. There's a whole Canvas course that your students will get enrolled in that will help prepare them for taking Math 1 and essentially prepare them for the test in May. We have a whole range of topics that's on another slide, talking about equations with variables on both sides, literal equations and cross multiplication, slope, comparing rates of change, slope-intercept form, comparing lines, monomial power rules, functions, and function notation. This is most of what we're going to cover, but this is not every single thing that we're going to cover in those 9 to 10 weeks. A big question I'm asked is, what does the math path look for my student, right? If you're in 5th grade right now, in 6th grade, you take Math 1, 7th grade, you take Math 2, then Math 3, then pre-calc. In 10th and 11th grade, we have a couple options. AK does something where they will potentially split, so they could do AB 1 year and BC the next. You can also combine that and do AB, BC, which is the standard way, essentially, students normally take calculus. And then they have AP stats. So if you split AP calculus into AB and BC, then you don't have an issue in terms of quote unquote running out of math. The other thing to think about is a lot of students, if they're on this kind of path, will, once you get to 10th grade, for their 11th and 12th grade year, they'll either apply to NCSSM, North Carolina School of Science and Math, or they will do either not in person, but online classes to help supplement them. You can also do those through local community colleges like Piedmont and the like. So here's kind of our general expectations. Students need to be there on time, right? We only have those 45 minutes. So with those 45 minutes, we need to make sure that your student is there and able to essentially get all the instruction. If they're missing or not there one week, they need to be able to rewatch the lesson and kind of figure out what did we miss, because most weeks will build somewhat on the next week, right? It's math, so everything's going to be built. Asking questions and paying attention during the club, and really trying to be engaged and being an active learner. There's also extra practice at home. That practice is something that should be done weekly. This is not to replace your 5th grade math by any means. This is on top of that. So an issue we had with a couple students, especially as it went online last year, is students were trying to only do math club math and not do their 5th grade math, and that's unacceptable. You have to be able to balance both and be able to use this as an extension, not as a replacement. So what can you / what should you do with your student? The big thing that I found students start to struggle with is kind of having that maybe lack of confidence because of the speed and the rigor of what we're going over, right? So you need to be having frequent conversations with your student to make sure, you know, they feel comfortable / feel capable of skipping this many levels of math, right? We have to remember, we're trying to prepare your student to skip 3 levels of math. So what that means is if they're starting to feel like, I don't know if I'm quite ready for this, right? Help them kind of work through that, but also understand that maybe your child isn't ready, and that's okay, right? It's okay that your kid isn't ready to skip 3 levels of math. That is for a very hard thing that we're trying to work through with them. So we need to understand that if our kid isn't feeling up to skipping 3 levels of math, that's okay. They can take math 1 in 7th grade. They can take it math 1 in 8th grade if they need to. This club is designed to help your student kind of get this extension, but if this extension is too fast or too much for them, we don't want them feeling bad about themselves or bad about themselves in math just because they're not ready to skip 3 years of math, right? And if they're not ready to do it and they get on this track, it just leads to a whole issue with self-confidence in math kind of in the long term. The other thing we need to make sure we're doing is helping them do the extra homework practice or making sure they're completing it. These aren't going to be checked by myself or Miss Weiss. This is just an expectation for us that they're working on the side. And the other thing to do is encourage them to reach out and ask questions if needed. I have a number of students that will email me throughout the week and just ask, hey, how do I do it I saw this problem on, slide 7. Can you work with me? Or can I have another example of this? Your students can always send me emails to see what extra, help they need or what extra practice they need to fully understand it. But if they aren't engaged in asking questions, right, not being a passive learner instead of an active learner, that's really just a detriment to themselves. So before we go, there is a link to the interest form. This interest form, by filling it out, will give us the ability to put your student in a Canvas course. From there, all the resources, all the videos, everything like that will be on the course to help them essentially get all the extra practice they need to succeed. So what questions do you have? If you can throw it in the chat, that's probably the most helpful. And again, I know we have some late arrivals. The entire video for this is also recorded, and this lesson will be on the Canvas page as well as the CHMS math page. Do you have to do the math club in order to sign up for Math 1? You don't have to do the math club if you feel like your child is already ready, but I've found that most students who make it into Math 1, maybe all but one, ran through the club. Do I have schedules for competitions by date? I do. They aren't any that they can do as 5th graders, but in the fall, I do another parent meeting that essentially runs through all the math competitions that Community House runs through. Let's see. Hold on, got a couple coming. How can I get my child into 7th grade honors? That's a great question. So the last couple years, what we've also found is we have a set of students that are on the bubble, maybe not quite ready to get into Math 1 as 6th graders, but are more comfortable with doing a 7th honors as a 6th grade. And that way they feel fully prepared to take Math 1 as 7th grade. Students still have to take the Math 1 placement test because that's how we make that list of students. And if you have a student who still qualifies to get into Math 1, but you decide that you don't feel like it's appropriate for your child, you're able to instead opt them into the 7th grade honors. So, but there's also a cutoff score of, I forget what it was, but you have to essentially score high enough to get into the 7th grade honors. We don't just offer that to anyone who takes the test. With Math 1 Club, what are some objectives already assumed to be mastered by rising 6th graders? The biggest thing that I would say for our rising 6th graders is, and something that some will struggle with, is operations with integers. Feeling comfortable multiplying and subtracting, dividing by negative numbers is really a stumbling block for some people. And so I would suggest really working on operations with integers and fractions. Fractions and integers are the big two that I would make sure to feel comfortable with. Is there a curriculum that we can follow along? Yes. On the Canvas page, there will have essentially the 10-week, I don't want to say syllabus, but our 10-week pacing, and you can see what notes and problems that you can follow along with your student. By the time that we have them registered, which we'll start registering them on the Canvas course tomorrow, you'll be able to see all 10 weeks worth of material. Are they always on Saturdays? None of them are on Saturdays. They're always on Wednesdays. Did it say Saturday in the form? I think it said Wednesday. For extra homework practice, are they given answers? Yes, they are given answers. If we have a scheduling conflict with Wednesdays, can we attend the Tuesday 6th grade math club? The Tuesday 6th grade math club is 8 to 8:45. So I believe that is an issue with school, right? However, you will find that every lesson is also recorded. So you can have your student watch the recordings and then reach out to me with questions that they have. How would the kids taking Math 1 and 6th grade learn the concepts of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade? A lot of these concepts build on each other, right? And some of the concepts that they're taught in 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade all kind of line up to Math 1. And so we're essentially teaching the most condensed version of that kind of leads into Math 1. And so there's some things like maybe box and whisker plot, but that's stuff that they're going to learn in Math 1 again anyways. And so we're condensing that down.
Can I speak to that too, Tyler? So the biggest thing that this is about is about exposure for the students. And we're not necessarily teaching them, let's just say we're not teaching them all of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math in 10 sessions. What we are doing though is we're exposing them to critical concepts that are necessary for success in Math 1. And if they can show that they can glean these critical concepts really quickly, and I imagine if you're on this call, you've seen that your student does excel in math, that they are really good at math, or maybe they just love math and you just want to give them this exposure and this opportunity to see it. What we find is the students that are able to glean it quickly, able to do well in this placement test and have certain data point scores are really prepared to take Math 1 as a 6th grader. And we build in the concepts that they don't know throughout the year because they do pick up on the concepts much quicker than an average 5th grade student or an average 6th grade student. So it's not like we're jamming 3 years of material into 10 sessions and we're like, they know all the math for 6th, 7th, and 8th, let's go. It's more about we've exposed them to critical concepts. They've demonstrated that they're able to master critical concepts and have a strong number sense, have a strong problem solving skill and understanding, and they're able to really apply their math knowledge in ways that is going to let them be successful in a Math 1 course that has 6th, 7th, and 8th grade concepts looped and built into it.
All right, So let me ask a couple more questions. Very well put, Ms. Weiss. Another couple of questions were, if my student doesn't make it into sixth grade, Math 1 as a sixth grader, can they take it again as can they take Math 1 as a seventh grader? Yes, they'll still be doing the placement test in seventh grade, and they're able to take that again. What is the process of registering for the placement test? If you fill out this interest form, that will register them for the Canvas course and the placement test. How many students do you select in the placement test? The cutoff score, I believe, is a 25 out of 30. And so that is kind of our cutoff from there. Last year, we had roughly 30 students make it into Math 1 as a sixth grader, and go from there. Could my student do the Tuesday class of conflict? We already talked about that. Are there any limitations to attending the Math 1 club if a student is currently in the Behringer TD program? As long as your student is planning on going to Community House next year, this club is open to any and all students that are going to Community House next year. So if you don't plan on sending your student to Community House next year, we politely ask you to obviously not join, because we need to focus on our students. When will classes start? Classes start next week. So classes will start next Wednesday at 3:45. What are the oh, we already talked about that. Is Math 1 different from Algebra 1? It is different, but not like slightly. Yeah, it covers a lot of the same topics, but not completely. Does MAP score help guide how prepared a student is for Math 1? Yes, we also look for good MAP scores to determine how prepared a student is. We also use that if a student's kind of on the bubble to help us determine if they should be in Math 1 or not. Do you come in person for the test? No. Last year we did it virtually, and we'll do it virtually again this year. We usually have roughly like 120 students taking it, but we definitely do not want to have that in person. Does each kid take each test May 1st and May 8th, or either one? They take either one. They don't take both. You're only allowed to take one. And the test is May 1st or the 8th. If you register for the interest form, will it show up for Canvas? Ms. Weiss, will you speak more about how, once we get the students added into the Canvas course, is there an extra step that they need to do? I thought they needed to verify that they were in the course or accept the course invitation, something along those lines.
Correct. We will enter all their email addresses. So you really want to verify that the email address that you put in is correct for the student. It needs to be their email with their student ID number that is associated with Canvas. And just double check that, triple check that. That's what we'll use to register the student for the Canvas course. And then once they're registered, they'll get a notification at the top that says you've been invited to join this course, and they have to join the course, and they'll be in it. And once they're in it, they'll have access to the materials.
All right. Well, we need to wrap up here because we have another meeting at 6 o'clock for our sixth grade parents. I'm going to put the link for this in the chat. Like I said, it's also going to be on the Canvas course as well as on the Community House Math webpage. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to myself, or again, there's I think a question part in the form, but I'll also put my email in the chat to kind of help any issues with that. The form asks for their ID. That's because we can add them through ID. We don't need their email. It just automatically goes with their ID. The Google form is the same as the link as above. Again, yeah, you don't need to worry about, as long as you have your ID, we're okay.
Just make sure the student ID is correct.
Yes.
We can make the
can't add
email
them
out of
without
the
that.
student ID. So if the student ID is correct, we're ready to rock and roll.
Yep. Again, this video will be up on